Drain the swamp, they said, focusing the nation's attention on the politicians controlled by special interests. With all the attention here on the swamp creatures of the Capitol, nobody's paying attention to the zombies, former lawmakers whose careers are dead, but their campaigns have come to life to help subsidize their new careers and lifestyles after they've left office.
5 nights in a Virginia hotel. That's the campaign.
Oh, yes, it was.
It was after you retired.
But it's not just that retired Georgia senator keeping his campaign alive long after he left D.C. We found former Congress members still spending money years after they died. This campaign finance loophole is so big, you can drive a hearse through it.
If you can't sometimes laugh at the ridiculousness of it, you can't come to work every day.
Noah Bookbinder is a former federal prosecutor who says it's getting harder and harder to drain the swamp. Which is why, in his current job as executive director for nonpartisan watchdog group CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, Bookbinder now files lawsuits against politicians who use campaign money as personal slush funds. But even he was surprised at what we found. 100 former Congress members, senators, and presidential candidates still quietly spending campaign money long after giving up the game.
It's really shameful when you see this many people exploiting the system.
The Federal Election Commission says candidates should never personally benefit from campaign contributions. And after a 6-month wind-down period, retired lawmakers should close their accounts and donate leftover money to charity or other established political committees. Except they aren't required to retire their campaigns. So these politicians can keep their lucrative accounts open indefinitely. Our team, in partnership with the Tampa Bay Times, spent a year analyzing more than 1 million public campaign finance records we downloaded from the FEC's webpage. And we traveled the country to interview reluctant politicians, like former Texas Congressman and 2-time presidential hopeful Ron Paul.
Dr. Paul?
These former lawmakers spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on questionable items, like tickets to sporting events, cell phone bills, and what appear to be vacations. Former Georgia Senator Saxby Chambliss, still spending from a campaign account after leaving Washington for a lobbying firm.
You retired from Senate 3 years ago. Why do you still have a campaign account open?
Because there's money.
Get this, he's far from the worst offender. Florida Congressman Mark Foley resigned in shame when he was caught sexting high schoolers. The Republican, though, spent the last decade using leftover campaign cash on memberships to posh social clubs in West Palm Beach, as well as travel, meals, and a personal computer. Ron Paul hasn't campaigned on anything in more than 5 years, but he's continued to cut tens of thousands of dollars worth of checks to his daughter to manage his campaign finances. And the granddaddy of them all, South Carolina Democrat Robin Talent, who hasn't served in Congress in 25 years. He spent much of that time living off his old campaign cash, though, paying for travel, a new iPad, and his country club dues, which is actually one of the few things the FEC does specifically prohibit under any circumstance.
There's just no legitimate explanation for that, and it's just outrageous. I mean, it is the kind of abuse that people only perpetrate when they're sure that nobody's watching.
The more we dug, the more outrageous the abuse. Case in point, former Hawaii Congressman Mark Takai. His campaign has paid a political operative more than $100,000 to act as treasurer and consultant after Takai left office. What makes it so outrageous? Well, Congressman Takai died from cancer in 2016, meaning the consultant who took charge of the money is paying himself campaign cash to consult on a dead man's campaign. And the Federal Elections Commission, which has one job, oversee campaign spending, has done nothing to stop the absurdities.
If the Federal Election Commission is not going to act on this, then maybe the only way to get to action is to shame people.
All told, the 100+ campaigns we identified as exploiting the system are sitting on tens of millions of dollars in cash with virtually no oversight on how they can spend it. Former Florida Senator George Lemieux.
Why not just close the account down and roll the money into charity?
Well, I may, and that's what I've been advised to do.
Both Democrats and Republicans are committing these abuses. Both Democrats and Republicans should be getting behind doing something about it.